Well, hello again to all the boys and girls out there in YouTube land watching. John and Ellie of Georgia Beer Reviews back at you today with a special live examination. I'm joined with Mr. Michael Kormeroff.
Hello.
He's in Brooklyn. Hello, Michael. And we've got Ian. Let me show the, here we go, show display names. I had that off for some reason. And Mr. Ian Ferguson Down, you're in Pennsylvania, correct?
Yes, just north of Philadelphia on the river.
Nice. Okay. So what we are doing this evening, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, usually when we go live these days, it's, barrel-aged imperial stouts. Well, what better way to get the new year started off than with another Bourbon County examination? We've got a Bourbon County Stout examination for the ages, folks. So we got some special ones, I think, this evening, and we're going to go around and tell everybody what we've got, and then we're going to go ahead and pour them, get into them, discuss them. And we'll go ahead and start with Michael Kormeroff, the beer baron.
Okay, so
let us know what
this is the standard-looking bottle. It's been, I think, since 2015 with the year on the top level, and this is a 2021, the straight Bourbon County Stout at 14% ABV. And I've had this before, but I'm looking forward. And I have not ever had a bad one of the regular stout. I can't say I haven't had a bad one of the variants, but I haven't had a bad one of the straight stout. I'm kind of down on the variants because they charge so much money. I know the base beer is the same, but they wreck them sometimes by adding the wrong thing. As far as I'm concerned, they may feel successful, that they make enough extra profit on it that it's worth doing. But to me, and it's not everyone, I've had some that have been fantastic, don't get me wrong, but it just seems if you could buy this for $12, $13, and it's going to cost you $25, and John, you're going to tell how much yours is, but yours is at least a straight stout that they just did on different bottles.
Yeah,
it's a special one. But this one is just a straight 2021 at 14%. Do you want me to pour it now?
Let's go through real quick and just tell what everybody got. So 14%, which just a quick little fact, when I was living in Georgia in 2021, I was able to get that exact bottle because 14.0 is the legal limit in Georgia. So I remember being super excited to go when I went to the store to be able to buy an original Bourbon County Stout. So 14.0%, 2021. Ian, what do you have? What year and what?
I apparently have a variant. I didn't even really think.
Oh, hopefully it's a good one.
Yes, we will find out. So it is the Bourbon County from 2020.
Okay.
It is the wheat wine ale aged in bourbon barrels with apple, cinnamon, and hetero caramel.
Holy cow! All right, that's a strong one too, right? What's the ABV?
14.6%.
How much?
14.6.
14.6. Oh, okay. I had the wheat wine, not that particular one, but just a straight wheat wine without the additives. I think it was 2020. It was down in Louisiana. I was visiting Ron Terrio and Dave Garlapede, and it was like 15.4% alcohol. And anyway, yeah, that's okay. So you technically don't even have a Bourbon County Stout. You have a Bourbon County brand wheat wine, which is completely different. That's amazing though. So what are the?
And I wanted to do well. I wanted to really be good. I didn't want to come across like I'm a skeptic because they can be good.
This will be.
Honestly,
I didn't even know. Honestly, when I grabbed this, I thought it was a stout because I.
All right, so.
I didn't know they made non-stouts.
That's why we've got the title, folks, Bourbon County Examination for the Ages, because we've got some very special beers here.
Okay, John, tell us what you have.
Okay, so one more time. Sorry, what was the ABV on yours, Ian? It was 14.6?
14.6.
Okay, which was actually the ABV for a lot of regular Bourbon County stouts for different years. It was a lot of them were 14.6, 14.7 for some years. So anyway, I've got the Bourbon County Stout 2022, right? So this is the regular Bourbon County Stout 2022, but that's not what I'm going to use tonight. I'm going to go with a 2022, but we're looking at the Reserve, Bourbon County Reserve 2022. And I'm going to show you the label here. So this one is 14.4%. It is 36% aged in Booker's bourbon barrels, 33% aged in Knob Creek bourbon barrels, 17% aged in Basil Hayden barrels, and 14% aged in Baker's bourbon barrels, which anybody that knows anything about bourbon, I mean, those are like really top tier bourbons. It also came in this fancy box within a box, and there's a whole story about it on the side here saying we thought we'd never make it again, but they did in 2022 to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Bourbon County Stout, which it says here 1992 to 2022. So 30 years of Bourbon County. That's pretty cool. And the price point, as Michael alluded to earlier, it's a pretty penny for this bottle. I've had it once before. I shared it with Bumpy Road Brews, who you probably all know. If you're out there and you've watched my channel, you know I do a lot of stuff with Bumpy. It's $40 for the bottle, so it's not a cheap bottle of Bourbon County. But considering that the bourbon barrels that they age and blend together, it's a pretty special beer. So. All right, so we've got some amazing Bourbon Counties, I think. We've got a comment. Cheers to Josh in the chat. Last beer, a great AB InBev review. That's right, Josh. I wish you weren't so judgmental of AB InBev, and you can join with a Bourbon County Stout, but we all know you don't have any.
Ian, there's a bunch of people, because they were purchased by or taken over by InBev and took over, will not buy any Bourbon County at all, regardless of how good it is. They will admit it's good. They just won't buy it. Now, if somebody turns them onto it, they'll still drink it. They're just not buying any. I haven't drawn any lines like that. It's kind of like this is like one of the best beers that's ever been made. So I'm not happy they did it. I'd rather they hadn't sold to InBev, but I can overlook it. That's
one thing that I will say about, say what you will about AB InBev, but Chicago, the brewery there, the Goose Island Brewery, they do not touch it. It's run independently. It's got the same people there as it has 20, 30 years ago. They do not mess with the Bourbon County line. And I think that we'll all agree, and you viewers out there that have had Bourbon County through the years, I think you'll agree as well that they haven't tainted the legacy of Bourbon County because they haven't cheapened the process. Beers like this, you're looking at the barrels that these beers are aged in. They're still, top-notch, top-tier, top-quality beers. So anyway, all that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into these. Let's crack them open, boys, and pour them up.
Okay.
And we'll go back to Michael with his first thoughts and impressions of his 2020 one.
Okay, I'm going to pour mine. I got my thing here. I have a different glass I'm using tonight. You ready?
Yes, sir.
The glass is big enough that even though you're not going to get a huge head on these high alcohol ones, I want to be able to fit it all in. Although I left a little bit in case Audrey wants. She'll at least get a sip of it. Now, I think for 14%, that's a pretty nice initial head. But we all know that will not last because it's just the nature of it that it'll probably diminish. But I don't know. There goes my earphone, but I'll get it back. Let's see if I get the right earphone in. Not that it really matters.
It's funny
Say
you mentioned
something
InBev.
to me so I know I got the wrong earphone.
It's funny you mentioned InBev.
This is one that only one works. But okay, so anyway, this is what it looks like. Very, jet black to the look against the light, but we do know it's more of a dark brown with a tan kind of head, a finger head, and I think it will diminish over time. So we're just going to do the look first. Or do you want me to smell it?
You can go ahead and get the aromas and even taste it if you want. It's just the three of us, so let's.
I can wait till everybody does their aroma first, then I'll.
Okay. All right.
Okay. This is a 21, so this has been in the bottle about 2.5 years, and it really still has a really You can smell the dark fruit. You can smell the bourbon. You can smell there's oak that you're getting off the initial smell. Like a tobacco smell, which I think these are known for having.
Yes.
There's a sweetness to it, like a cherry kind of thing to this as well. And I did have the bottle out for like 45 minutes. So in other words, I wasn't going to have it cold. I want to start. I know we're going to do this over a longer time, but I want to start out with it not being, ice cold. That's about all I'm getting as far as the smell. If you guys want to do the nose on yours.
Yeah. All right. Ian, I'll let you go.
Well, I'm definitely getting the apple and the cinnamon and the caramel. Not much bourbon in the nose, at least. But yeah, it didn't pour with much of a head, and what head was there is now gone. It looks darker on the video than it actually is. It's kind of an amber, a really deep amber. So, but yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Definitely some interesting notes in the nose.
Okay.
So
a comment I was going to make before. I've never had that wheat wine, but in their earlier years, they made something called the barley wine, which is probably the same theory.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one of those in like 2016, which was really good. But again, it wasn't a stout, but it still was really good.
Yeah.
I had the wheat wine from I think it was 2015, maybe 2016. But it wasn't the one that Ian has. It was a straight wheat wine. It didn't have all of the, I don't think it had all of the additives in it, the one that he has. And I believe it was 15.2 or 15.4%. So it was a little bit higher ABV as well. This was down in New Orleans, so they get all kinds of crazy stuff down there. I don't know. I couldn't get it I was living in Georgia at the time, and it was well over the 14% limit. So I never got it down there. But
and it goes to show Louisiana is a southern state, and yet they're such fun-loving people. If you ask them the question, you know what they would say? You got to be kidding. We don't deal with any alcohol limits. So they're conservative politically, but they don't deal with, the stuff with drinking. Hey, Jeremy Vincent.
Yeah, cheers to Josh and cheers to Jeremy in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. Yes, Michael and I have been reunited again. We're going to try to do one of these, maybe once a month of something.
We could do other things other than Bourbon County. We could do other stouts. We could do IPAs. Yeah. I still drink IPAs. They're just not my featured thing anymore.
Right.
But I still do my Thursday evening get-togethers, and people bring IPAs. It's not like when they give me one, I won't drink it. I don't buy as many IPAs as I used to.
Right.
I was digging through there, digging downstairs, and I've got a couple of Leon Russian bourbon barrel aged.
Oh, okay.
From Tammany Creek.
Do you remember we sent you the picture, John, of Ian's collection downstairs? He's got quite a collection. I'm stocking some stuff, but I don't have a lot.
I do remember the picture you sent me. He's got quite the collection of aged beers down there. Jeremy Vincent just joined with his other account, said had to come over with my other account and give you another thumbs up. Cheers. Cheers, Jeremy. We appreciate it. So really quick, I'll give you an aroma. I poured this a few minutes ago, and the head has died down, but it did pour initially with like a one-finger tan head. There's still a very thin little layer of head there, which you may or may not be able to see, but immediately I'm getting a ton of dark fruit. Raisin, fig, and then there's dark chocolate. There's the bourbon barrel. Bourbon barrels. There's a lot of bourbon barrels with this one. Some really good bourbon. So there's definitely vanilla and oak. Getting a little bit of cherry with this as well, which is interesting. That sweet tobacco, I think Michael touched upon it, the tobacco notes that are very common with Bourbon County Stout. Like the sweet yellow tobacco aroma is there. I don't like to say leather because I very rarely do I pick up on that, but with this one, I want to say that I'm getting that as well, some leather. I mean, I guess it should all be there with all the different barrels I use in this. There's just so much going on. Dates, I don't know if I mentioned dates, but that goes back into the dark fruit that I mentioned earlier. Smells absolutely incredible. 14.4%. It doesn't necessarily smell like a high alcohol beer, but it's so complex and so much going on with the aromas. And you get the vanilla, you get the oak, you get the dark fruit, the tobacco, all of that in there. So if you've ever had a barrel-aged stout before, a good barrel-aged stout, immediately upon inhalation, that first sniff, you can detect that this is a barrel-aged stout. So it smells absolutely incredible. I can't wait to dive into it. So we're gonna
everybody should hold their glass up and we should take the first sip together.
Yes, absolutely.
Ready.
1,
right.
2, 3. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Look, I've done this a lot of times and I never cease to be amazed at how it's just incredibly complex, and yet it doesn't let you down. The flavors just come like on your mouth. It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have as big a combination on the nose as you did, but the taste, almost everything I said, just like envelopes my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm getting the cherry. I'm getting the cherry very strong in the taste on this first. You can taste the bourbon too, obviously, because they're bourbon barrel aged. But what's the cherry from? What's the cherry sweetness from? I wonder why you get so much cherry.
Yeah, I mentioned that on the aroma. I just took the first sip, and there's a little bit of that as well. I think certain bourbon barrels and the way that they age some of these beers, I think cherry, it's kind of a common theme. It's not something that I pick up a lot on or have picked up a lot on over the years with the Bourbon County, but it's definitely one of those things. People say cherry, and then some people say like cherry wood. Well, that's a completely different thing. The cherry wood.
This is more of a straight cherry, like a maraschino kind of cherry kind of feel.
So like a sweet red,
a sweet cherry. Yeah. But it seems like it's opposite the bourbon in a way. Like maybe it's from the barrel. Maybe that is from the barrel. And I'm getting barrel now too, which I didn't. I got oak before. Now I'm getting barrel on the taste profile.
God, this is so good. Jesus. Ian, tell us a little bit about the wheat wine there, because that's going to be obviously different than what Michael and I have.
Yeah, it's probably a little more. It's sweet, but with a little bit of bitterness. You can definitely taste the cinnamon. And
Okay.
It doesn't come across as real boozy, so the alcohol is well hidden for being such a high alcohol.
Is it smooth for the ABV level?
Yes.
Does it drink very smoothly?
It's pretty smooth. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to chug it, but yeah, it's definitely smooth.
But you could. No, I'm just kidding.
No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't.
You should. But that's the thing about some of the bourbon candy. They're so smooth. You don't pick up, even though you get complexity from the barrel aging. Like it's not boozy per se, if that makes sense.
But it doesn't taste sessionable anyway,
no,
right?
I would agree with you.
You do agree that at least tastes 10. Maybe it doesn't taste 14, but you could tell that there's alcohol in this for sure. Yeah. But if yours is smooth, that means they've done a good job to cover the alcohol.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to draw, but for the viewers that may have just started or tuning in, you mentioned the cinnamon. What are the other additives for that wheat wine? You said cinnamon. What else?
Apple and caramel.
So,
are you getting any apple?
Yeah, are you getting
a little bit? Very little bit.
It almost sounds like an apple pie, like cinnamon apple, like it would be kind of apple pie, reminiscent of an apple pie. Does that does it come across like that, or is it kind of separate?
I would say if they had gone a little lighter on the cinnamon, it might have brought more of the apple and the caramel out.
Okay.
So yeah, cinnamon can be such an overpowering flavor.
And caramel too. You know, they added caramel, but a lot of times, you know, I get it with Bourbon County caramel, and sometimes even into the toffee realm. You get caramel and toffee notes just from the barrel aging, not even from the addition of caramel. Yeah. So chances are you're getting some of those notes from the barrel and then from the addition as well.
Yeah, the caramels are probably adding a little bit to the smoothness and sweetness too. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's
very nice.
I'm not getting any leather, so that might be something that's only in your 30th anniversary thing in this thing. But I've had leather before.
I'm very hesitant to. I think I've only described leather in like these Bourbon County or just any barrel aged stout like one or two times in the past. I'm always very hesitant to do so because I don't eat leather. I don't smell leather a lot. But when I do, when I go this kind of reminds me of when I went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I went to a belt shop. Guy made leather belts, and you go in there and he's like making them. I don't know if it's the heat and the way that he's like forming the material, but you do get that smell, and it translates. I got it a little bit on the aroma, but it translates to the palate. It's hard. It's hard to describe for me. That's why I don't really feel comfortable sometimes talking about leather, because leather is an aroma. It's not something that you know. I mean, I guess some people might chew.
You're not chewing on leather for the most part, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's odd in that sense, but I would definitely say that there's something leather-like with the aroma, and it kind of translates to the palate in a weird, rustic way that's hard to put into words. But I will say that, you know, it's no BS. Like, obviously, I'd love to be able to say, hey, I spent $40 on this bottle, and it's not any different than the regular 2022 Bourbon County Stout, but I'd be lying to you if I did. There's definitely a lot more dark fruit, tobacco, the roasted qualities, and the barrel notes, like everything. It's basically if you took a standard Bourbon County and you just put it in more barrels and just aged it longer. It's the same flavor profile, but more of it, if that makes sense.
So it's more intense, even though the alcohol probably is not more.
Well, so that's a good.
What's the difference? What was the alcohol on the other one? On the straight 22?
The one I'm drinking, the 2022 Reserve, is 14.4. Here's the other bottle, the 2022. It is 14.3.
Okay, so they're pretty much the same in ABV, close. But what you're basically saying is the intensity on yours of all the things together, the complexity is much more than what you normally get.
The complexity is intensified. The flavor notes are intensified. The alcohol is 0.1% less, but everything else is more. And it's got a little bit extra with that leather note that I mentioned, and the tobacco notes are amplified, which I always like. The tobacco and those dark fruit, like the fig and the date, those are intensified and almost to the point where it leaves a little bit of a film in your mouth after you swallow it down. So it has a lingering, maybe a little bit more lingering finish. I don't know if that has to do with the longevity of it aging in the barrels. Like it takes more tannins out of the wood and it lingers in the roof of your mouth more. I don't know, but it's definitely something worth mentioning. And I've talked long enough. I know this is a hell of a beer I'm drinking here, and I'll keep pondering it. But I want to hear from Michael a little bit more about his.
Now, since the first sip, some of the things that you did get in your first sip, which I didn't get in the nose so much, I'm getting the vanilla now, which I didn't get so much in the nose at all. I couldn't really detect the vanilla. I'm getting it in the taste. but it's weird how much cherry there is. I'm very surprised because I don't think in any of the other bourbon counties I've had has cherry been a primary.
Right, and you've had this year before as well, correct?
Yeah, and maybe I can't remember now. I have it somewhere in my book, I guess, when I did it, but I can't remember the cherry being as prevalent as it seems. Maybe it was. I just don't remember. The bourbon is the lead flavor, though. There's no question. The cherry is together with the bourbon, and I'm getting that. And mine is probably less intense than yours, but it's pretty well put together, and it has an extra year in the bottle over yours, since yours is 2022. So right. I still think being in the bottle does help it kind of settle out a little bit too in, the processing of these bottles and stuff.
Yeah, but absolutely.
I have nothing. Mine is great. It's really good, and I have no complaints, whatever. And I'm happy Ian's tastes good, because when I'm saying the variants, and John knows this story, there was one year when they had, what was it, orange something? I can't even remember.
The midnight orange.
Midnight orange. I went to my friend, and he paid the $25 or whatever it was for it. We're looking for this great beer to have, and it tasted like cherry. It didn't taste like orange. Now, if you're gonna make it seem like it's gonna be like a citrus combined with the Bourbon County recipe that's in, okay, do it. And I'm not saying it was bad. It's just to tell us what it really is, and it'll give you a better idea. And as a beer, I think we were doing it in percentages at the time. I still gave it a 95, but I generally give them 98, 99 sometimes. And to pay double the money and it not to be better, it didn't, it was I didn't like it. I thought it was and I didn't buy it. Doug, my friend Doug, bought it. And he says, this is still good, but, and he has bought other variants since, and it's hit and miss. You get some that are good and some that are, not good. There was a fig one last year, Isaac Newton fig.
Yeah.
That one is really good. The cola one is really good too.
Yeah.
So there are. Look, I'm not saying they're all bad. It's not. I don't want to be unfair.
I wish I could have tried the Newton one, because you already get the dark fruit with Bourbon County. To add that in there,
I'm very fortunate. One of the people in my beer tasting group that comes every month has a daughter in Chicago. And she goes, and they do drive sometimes. And when they drive, what she does is she'll just load up the Bourbon County stuff, and she brings it back. And it is just terrific. Because when you split one of these bottles with 6, 7, 8 people, you're only getting a small amount, but you're getting enough to taste it. And she was the one who turned me on to the figs. And that was just, I like figs anyway.
Oh, so you've had that variant.
Yes, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Wow. Ian, have you had that one?
No, because I don't get to go to the I don't go to the stores very often, so it's it's sort of like the ones that I have a few bottles of 2023, or a couple of bottles of 2023 that I got mainly because the one store in New Hampshire, in Portsmouth, the grocery store was carrying it. They were limiting it to one bottle per person, but they had three. They had 3 styles, so I bought. Did they have one, or they have 2 styles? But I bought one of each style. So I stretched the 1 bottle per person limit on that one. But yeah, I just it's just I don't see it very often. I don't get to the beer stores very often these days.
You can answer questions with me, Ian, because in the old days, and you remember, and you lived in Pennsylvania at the time too, after our Georgia experience when you did move, they used to have these, state stores where you had to buy a case at a time. And I think it's changed since then. You don't have to buy a case anymore. But I used to hate it because you have to spend all this money. And I'd always try to get these split ones. I didn't get a case of one thing. I get, split cases with six pack of 4 different beers and whatever. But who wants to have to buy 24? And then I heard they did change the law.
Yeah, they changed the law. Oh no, they changed the law. You can buy single bottles now. It's like
but it wasn't like that.
They changed. I think really the craft brewing revolution really forced the Pennsylvania Alcohol Board to really. I mean, because basically it wasn't workable in a craft brewing in a craft brewing. They sort of just let things slide so to speak. And then eventually they changed the laws, and now I can buy beer at grocery stores now.
Okay, which is what it's like in most states.
Right. The only tricky part
Right.
is that they have to buy a liquor license
In order to sell it.
And there's still a limited number of liquor licenses out there.
So everybody can't do it.
So yeah, it's been the death of the corner bar around here.
Yeah, at the time when I did this, you had to go to a bar to buy a 6-pack, and they killed you with the price. It was almost like if you go to the bar to buy a 6-pack, they charge so much it almost wasn't worth doing. You're better off buying the case and just drinking it as slow as it
But
takes.
yeah, it's like I mean, I know just I can just think about how many small little corner bars have gone away just in my little area, just because because the owner, they're small little bars. They don't make a lot of money. A supermarket chain will come in, want to buy and will offer to buy the bar because they just want the liquor license.
Right, and then they can sell a lot more.
Yeah,
because
the liquor license or liquor licenses around or in Pennsylvania can be worth $500,000 or more.
Right. See, in New York State, the liquor stores sell just spirits, and that's it, and high volume wine.
Here,
in other words, higher alcohol wine.
It's always so different state to state. When I was in Georgia, it was one way. When I was out in Alabama, it's one way. As soon as I moved out of Georgia, the county I lived in decided that liquor was okay, and they opened a package store half a mile away from the apartment that I used to live in. So I never got to enjoy it while I was there. And then as soon as it's almost like they were taunting me, like, you're leaving, like, screw you. We're going to open a liquor store right down the street. Up here, we can't, where I live in Massachusetts, we cannot buy liquor or beer or wine in grocery stores. We have to go to a designated package store, which is fine because there's craft beer cellar. There's Colonial Spirits in Acton. There's a lot of really good places I can go to that's all they do. It's like a warehouse of beer, wine, and liquor, and I can get rare bottles of Bourbon County. I can get a lot of specialty editions of different beers that normally you wouldn't be able to get, but it's still a hassle. Like I think of my mom growing up, like we'd go to church and then we'd get out of church and we'd go to Winn-Dixie, which is a Alabama. I don't know. You may have heard of Winn-Dixie.
We're both aware of it.
We both. I was born in Georgia, so I know what.
Okay, so you go to church, you go to Winn-Dixie to do your grocery shopping right after church. You get your beer, your wine, your food, everything all in one place. So to think of people that have that regimen being, having a routine, and then you go to the store to get your groceries or whatever, but you can't buy any alcohol there. It's such a convenience for people that live in states where you can go to one store, like family stores, where you can buy your liquor, your beer, your wine, whatever, and you can buy all your groceries all in one stop. But like up here, it's not like that. You cannot, it's interesting. And the laws, the state laws, the federal laws, when it comes to alcohol, it's really, and I know we've talked about this before, this is a whole other examination, so I won't go too much further.
But it's interesting sometimes to get off the track, because what we're doing is you're letting the beer get warmer, and we're going to get more taste out of it as we go along. I was going to say, recently they changed the New York State law. You used to not be able to buy beer from 8 to 12 on Sunday morning. This was an old, outdated law that obviously they wanted people in church instead of drinking beer or buying it even. Yeah. So at the food co-op, what would happen is they would set up their shopping there. They would block the beer with sheets. In other words, they'd put sheets on it so you couldn't even think of buying it. But the state did away with that now since the last year or two. And now it's across the board. You can buy beer 24/7, 7 days a week, if the store is 24/7.
There were a lot of stores. Yeah, in Alabama, growing up, there were a lot of stores that were dry, like Sunday, no alcohol at all on Sunday.
And he did live in a dry county even in Georgia before he moved to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But obviously they're changing their laws there too. But you were there where you had to drive to the next county to get hard alcohol.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about the 2020s that we have dry counties in the South.
2021.
That's obscene.
Well, what is it? Some of the where is it where Jack Daniels is brewed?
That's a dry county.
It's a dry county.
In Lynchburg, Tennessee, I believe
Tennessee is a dry county.
And it's funny.
Yeah, you can't.
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say you can go to the distillery. You can go to the distillery in Lynchburg. Am I saying? I think it's Lynchburg.
It is Lynchburg.
Yeah,
it's Lynchburg.
Okay. But you can't legally drink at the distillery. However, I've had a lot of friends over the years that have gone to the distillery, and they kind of unofficially, you pay for a ticket for the tour, and they will let you sample.
I think I told you the story. Audrey went with her friends, and it's like a bomb shelter. What they do is the windows are all closed off. It's like you're in like some kind of oblivion thing. And she said she couldn't believe it. And then when you walk outside into the main part of the thing, they said, "Can we get some to go?" They says, "No, you have to drive to the next county in order to buy it because this county is completely dry. And we can let you taste it here, but that's the end of it. It's only because of a special deal where they have you blocked off where you can't feel secure as you're drinking. It's almost like you're in the Ukraine or something in some bombed out area and you're drinking it because it's like a Quonset hut where,
I remember back in the 80s, you couldn't get alcohol in Pennsylvania on Sundays.
Yeah.
So I remember my father making my mother drive us all over to New Jersey. Because I live right across the river from New Jersey. Every once in a while, he would need to have a case of beer, and we'd have to drive over to New Jersey to buy a case of beer on Sunday.
And I do remember his dad, John. So anything he says, I do remember. That was another time in my life too, but I do remember your father.
Well, my father lived in your basement for a while.
And he did live in my basement for a while too during his.
Oh,
that's
so
when he was trying to recover.
Oh, wow.
But it's funny, he was trying to recover, and yet he had an account at the liquor store. So I guess the recovery was kind of like, it really wasn't real. It was kind of, Look, alcohol can be a tough thing if you can't handle it. So I'm not putting people down and whatever. If you can handle it, it's a fine thing as a once in a while thing kind of thing. And you would, like I said, you wouldn't want to be chugging this because if you were, you get into trouble pretty fast, I think. Doesn't even have to be 14%. I would say 10% up, you're chugging it, there's trouble.
Oh, yeah.
We've had stuff, John, where they cover the alcohol so well. Yeah. I'm bringing up one beer remember the Lion Stout? The Lion Stout from Sri Lanka was 8.8 and it drank like 4%. And you sit there and you say, "Hey, this is really good." Whatever. But that was for me. That was Brooklyn Black Chocolate.
The black chocolate,
that was 10%.
The first time I had Brooklyn Black Chocolate was at a bar near where I used to work in New Jersey, and this was early This was like 2008 or 10 or something like that, when like it was relatively new, and the whole high alcohol beer thing was a new thing. So we go there for lunch. We'd order a beer. So she gives me a 16-ounce glass of Brooklyn Black Chocolate Stout.
Yeah,
it's 10%.
And I didn't even I didn't even know because it tasted like a really good chocolate stout. I was like, "Oh, this is excellent. This is the best beer ever."
Yeah.
And then I had to go to work. And I had to go to work for the next 4 hours.
Hey, this is really good, but I can't concentrate. It's hard to concentrate.
There was a place in Georgia right down the street from where I lived, Johnny's Pizza, New York style pizza, and they used to have the Kentucky bourbon. It used to be Alltech Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale, 8% alcohol, caramel, just kind of not really a brown ale, but just a bourbon barrel aged ale. On draft, super smooth, 8%. They used to sell you the 24-ounce mugs for like $3.50, $4.
Wow.
So I used to go there and get like 4 or 5 of them after work on a Friday, and then like stumble home right across the street to where I live.
That's good.
Eventually, they caught on. I never brought it up, but eventually they caught on and they started selling it only in 12-ounce pours. But man, I'll tell you, for a while there, I was having a hell of a time, and I'll be the first to admit, I've had Michael and I have done examination stuff over the years. We're drinking a high alcohol beer, and maybe I've pre-gamed. I've had a beer or two before, and I've had to delete. I'm not ashamed to say it. I've had to delete some streams over the years, just because you're drinking something that's so smooth, so delicious. You don't realize what you get yourself into necessarily, and by the end of the stream, you're slurring your words. You can't even get through it, and anyway, I guess point being, like, beers like this are also very, the Bourbon County is very smooth and easy drinking, and even something like this that's got 4 different bourbon barrels that this is being aged in at 14.4%. It's very smooth and easy drinking, and obviously I wouldn't recommend chugging it, but like I could really get this down quickly because it's so delicious. However, we're doing an examination, and as you let these beers warm, if you didn't already know out there, people watching, when you have a nice barrel-aged stout, especially when you're talking about multiple barrels that the beer's been aged in, as these products warm, they actually get more complex and more flavors come out, and they get better. I wouldn't recommend drinking a Miller Lite an hour into, whatever you're drinking it. If you don't finish your Miller Lite within, 10 or 15 minutes, you're going to be drinking piss water. But with a Bourbon County, you can let something like this ride for a while, and it actually improves in quality and depth of flavor. And all that being said, to just kind of get back on track, and I want to go back around again to Michael and then Ian and then myself. Want to get final thoughts and additional tasting notes as the beers have warmed, if any, and final thoughts and ratings on the beer. So I'm going to start back with Michael, and we'll
first. Let me say hello to John Womack, who he did mention. He's a third person who's there watching. So there,
yes,
up there. He's me.
And Jeremy Vincent made an interesting.
And Jerry made a lot of comments
about this. He gave Bourbon County Stout to friends who aren't into craft beer. They said it was the worst crap they ever drank. I disagree with that statement, but I can appreciate somebody who's used to drinking Michelob Ultra and they've never had any other style, and then they drink something like Bourbon County and they say that it's crap. However, you can't really give any validity to somebody like that going from Michelob to Bourbon County, because you're looking at not only a style difference, but you're looking at higher ABV, you're looking at barrel aging, you're looking at a lot of things. So, and the way that I see it too, people that only drink Miller Lite, Bud Light, Coors Light, Mick Ultra, what have you, they're not really beer drinkers. They're alcohol consumers.
If somebody does have a chance who's maybe not a big time beer drinker, if you are into drinking bourbon, there's a better chance you might like this. So in other words, let's say you have people who occasionally drink, Miller Lite or that stuff if they're at a party, whatever, but they do like bourbon. They might try something like this and they'd like it more. They may still not like it because maybe they don't like the combination in a beer. They may not like it, but they have a better chance. Those other people, if not into spirits, I can see why they wouldn't like it, because it's intense in the bourbon area. And if you don't like spirits at all, you're probably not going to like it.
Oh yeah. My ex hated beers. Pretty much the only beer that she would even remotely tolerate was lambic.
And that's not even beer. I mean, it is.
It's funny, and maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I'm the beer baron. I like pretty much across the board. I like Belgian style stuff too. But I love lambics. I have to say that
I do too.
Unfortunately, I'm down now, and I have been for a while. John knows, on pilsners and lagers, because no matter what you do with them, they're not interesting. I mean, I know they're beers, and I can look. I'm not gonna if nobody brings them to the beer tastings anymore because they can't. People just they say that's a beer. Don't bring any beers. It has to be craft. Even if you bring a craft lager or a craft pilsner, they don't want to see it. Yeah. They don't even want to see it. Whatever. But what's funny,
I can agree because it's like having been to the Newark Budweiser facility and gotten the engineer's tour of it, the full brewer's tour of like going like in all kinds of places where you need a hard hat and safety shoes and full PPE to go into. Because my company did a couple of projects at that facility before it closed. So we got the full tour of that facility of all kinds of interest. It's a fascinating place.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just an amazing place. But I can tell you something. One of the project that we originally was one of the projects we were going to be working on was actually working on the QC lab. Because believe it or not, they actually do have a QC lab. And, and I can tell you for a fact that those
quality control lab. Okay.
Yeah. Quality control lab. And then I can tell you for a fact, talking to those guys, the people who work there, they love beer as much as anyone. And they had all kinds of beers there. They were like, oh yeah, this was something that we tried. It never made it to production. There's all these, like, they had at least a half a dozen or dozen or so bottles of stuff that never made it to public. It was all stuff that went through trials and, tasting and trials, and it just never made it to public. It was a fascinating place to be in.
And they have good brewers at Budweiser. Yeah. So it's not like they can't brew something else, but they're brewing for the masses. It's the king of beers for a reason. And they do duplicate better than anybody else.
And I think it was Sam Cooke said that. It's like, Pilsners and that
Samuel Adams is the same.
Not the easiest thing, and the fact that they can do it at such huge volumes and consistently is amazing.
And all the different breweries they have across the country with different water, and they can still compensate for it, so it comes out exactly. And I've tried it in several different places: St. Louis, Newark, Jacksonville. I've been to several Budweiser, and it's exactly the same thing. Now I don't like it, but it's exactly the same thing.
It's the same, yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
Exactly. I'm not into lagers. I like this stuff better, and let me tell you,
that's the same thing too. Really quick before Michael, I'm gonna let you give your final thoughts and rating of your beer. But I want to say one thing too when it comes to the tasting. Like people that say, "Oh, I don't like this, I don't like that," and people that only drink light beer, they're not really beer drinkers. Case in point, talk about the Michael Kormaroff epic tastings that he has over at his place. He always sends me the results, and it's like sometimes it's like 15 plus beers. 9 times out of 10, the bourbon barrel aged stuff wins. The higher alcohol bourbon barrel, and then 8 times out of 10, that just happens to be a bourbon barrel aged stout because those are the best of the bourbon barrel or the barrel, not just bourbon barrel aged, whiskey barrel, brandy barrel, whatever. Rye barrel. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be that's at the top of the pack. And Michael always sends me these tasting results. He's like, what, with the numbers. And then I'll zoom in on the picture and I'll be like, that looks like a barrel aged stout, but it's like something. I'll be like, what is this that one, that placed in first? And almost every time he's like, oh, this is a bourbon barrel aged imperial stout from whatever. Mm-hmm. So what does that tell? What does that tell me? What it tells me is that if you really are a beer drinker,
he just did a picture from one of them.
yeah, there you go. If you really are a beer drinker, a beer connoisseur, then you're going to gravitate towards the best, most complex, higher alcohol type stuff. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the barrel aged stouts. Barrel-aged stouts are where it's at.
I will say occasionally you'll have something else that'll slip in. You'll get one of these strange Belgian ones, like one of them. I can't even think of the different beers, but they have 10s and 12-year barrel aged. They're not barrel aged. They're just with yeast and whatever. Yeah. Those sometimes sneak in. The problem is though, in my group, they're not really, there it goes again. In my group, they're not really into Belgians that much. So in order for them to do better, sometimes they do well and sometimes they don't, but you can sneak one of those in. You could sneak in a very good IPA every once in a while, but the problem the IPA has, it has to be astounding for it to have a chance to even finish in the top 5. It's got to be a state, and they have gotten into maybe 5th place kind of thing.
Up here,
other stouts have an advantage over the IPAs.
Yes,
not even barrel-aged ones, just straight stouts.
We've got the couple breweries up here, Treehouse and Trillium and stuff, where best of the best IPAs, but not so much West Coast juicy IPAs. And Treehouse does some oak conditioned IPAs, which are top notch. Some of those may sneak in there every now and then, but most of the time you're looking at like what we're talking about, like what we're drinking now. This is going to be top tier.
No question. Also, I didn't mention milkshake IPAs, which come like a puree. It's like a juice thing. Ian, you have to try one because Evil Twin is one that's here, and they do a good thing with it.
And here's the thing, though, too. That's the thing, though, with the milkshake IPAs. You're adding fruit puree and lactose and whatever. So you're catering more towards people that don't really like beer.
That's true.
I hate to say that.
To get the female. They want the female drinker to get involved. So if a guy takes his girl to Evil Twin, they give her a beer that she might, if not love, she might
it's a fruit smoothie IPA. Oh, it's delicious. But does it taste like a beer? No. That's why people that don't like beer like those styles of beer, because they don't taste like beer. Nobody can say that a bourbon barrel-aged stout doesn't taste like a beer. It tastes like a beer. And then on top of that, it tastes like liquor.
No, that's true. But the way they've been able to make the difference between the complexity and the way it drinks is shocking to me. It's that good, and it's and I do like bourbon. I do like the taste.
I do too. I think that's why we all like these styles so much, because you get the best of both worlds. It's not so much a beer connoisseur. At this point, you're talking about alcohol. You're talking about, I like bourbon, I like stouts, and then when you combine the best of everything and create a singular product from that, you're looking at like world-class, amazing, people that drink wine are the same way. They're like, oh, this wine is a 1934 Bordeaux aged in 5 different barrels and sitting in the cellar for 50 years. Like, wine people get it. Beer people are coming around when it comes to some of this stuff, but it's relatively new. As a matter of fact, we're talking about Bourbon County, right? They were the originators of the barrel-aged stout.
And you mentioned 1992, so they've been 32
they
years
were the
now.
First. I mean,
that's a long time.
They say they were. If you look at their website and you look at some facts and stuff, I don't know if this is. I guess they were the first recognized barrel-aged stout producers in 1992. They were the originators of the bourbon barrel-aged stout. And I think there's something to be said. I mean, they may not have been the original people to do it, but they were the ones recognized as the top of the.
They were the leaders in
bourbon barrel aging.
The bourbon.
Well, anyway, that being said, I'm sorry. I
will give more description. Now, one change that's happened now, the cherry, which was dominating now, is more background.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
So what I'm getting now is I'm getting this like bourbon oak barrel front. That's the lead taste I'm getting. And I can taste some dark fruit in the background, but it's mostly bourbon, oak, and barrel. Hello, Miscellaneous.
Cheers, Miscellaneous.
Some of these people, Ian, are regular people on the different beer circuits that John and I used to frequent more.
Roger. Okay.
I don't think Miscellaneous hangs out with them anymore either. I've seen some of his individual stuff.
Miscellaneous kind of does his own thing.
I've watched some of his that he's done with his friends, and it hasn't been. The other regulars are all still together. They appear on Alex's show all the time, and on Eric's show on Wednesday as well.
Yeah, I think there's. I think Alex is live now. Somebody was live when we went live. I think Alex was doing an Alex and Friends live stream when we went live, but he does a lot of them, so I don't feel bad about
And Jean Pierre claims he's visited everybody else. He says he's coming to visit me this spring. So.
I met
John. You're going to come whenever the room is ready downstairs. You're going to come to visit for sure.
It's just, no. I met. Well, all I was trying to say was that Jean came to visit me in Newton, Georgia, before I moved up here, and we hung out. We drank some beers. We hit up a couple of bars. It was a good time. John's a good guy.
Well, he visited Alex on his last trip in, and he contacted me before.
That's right.
And he said, "I can't do everybody in one trip because you have to hang with his parents and do what." I understand. It's just that he makes another trip. He lives outside in New Jersey, close to New York, where his parents are. He lives in Atlanta, but he comes up to visit. And he promised me this spring he come. John and his wife will come too, but I want to have a space for you.
Well, there's no rush for that. We're only 5 hours away, so we'll plan when everything is.
He was much further away when he was in Atlanta, so it would have been harder. All right, let's see what else I'm getting.
Right. Yes.
Okay. I don't know. It seemed when it was colder, it seemed more intense. So it seems to be settling out. All the tastes are still there, and there's still some cherry too. The cherry is not completely gone. It's just more background now. It's a one. Mine is complex too. It's obviously not as complex as 30th anniversary because you got more different types of barrels. What do you know, John? What their average in their yearly ones? How many barrels do they use? And it can be from just one company, right? It's two usually?
I think it's two. I think it's Heaven Hill, and I think the other one is the Buffalo Trace in Heaven Hill.
Right. So it's normally just two. And in yours, they have four different ones, and they're all better known than those.
Right. And they're not, neither one of them is at the Buffalo Trace or the Heaven Hill. It's Booker's, Knob Creek, Basil Hayden's, and Baker's. These are
Okay, and another thing which we have not mentioned, some of these beers are only available in the Chicago area. So there's something called Proprietors that comes out every year.
Oh yeah,
I got one from Bryce's best friend once.
Yeah, but
Linda, this person in my group, she brings them up too, and it's interesting because those are usually lower alcohol. But they have a central theme of some kind. You don't know before what they're going to do with different stuff. So I've had a few of those too. And it's an amazing company because they have their stuff is diverse and they try different things, with the different variants too. And this is excellent, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So Ian, are you getting any additional taste in yours?
Well, as it's warmed up, it's, I think maybe the caramel is a little stronger, but I'm still not getting a ton of apple. It's mostly cinnamon and maybe a little bit of caramel. But
it's still covering the alcohol.
Yes, it still covers the alcohol well.
So Michael, did you give a? I
didn't give a rating yet.
Okay, so why don't we do that? Well, Michael, you give a rating, then Ian, you give let's go ahead and do the final thoughts and ratings since we're going on an hour here. Okay. The beers had time to warm up.
Okay,
so we can,
Ian, I do not give hundreds under any conditions. So just set that straight for what's going on. And if it ever gets to the point where I drink something that I feel like is 100, I'll come off it right away. But I haven't gotten to that yet. I'm going to give this a 98. And I'm only giving this a 98 and not a 99, is I'd have to save the 99 for John's if I ever get a chance to try the 30th anniversary. But this is everything you could expect. There's nothing bad about it. It has all the wonderful taste, and the fact it's been in the bottle 2.5 years obviously helps it a little bit, maybe makes it a little bit more mellow from the time frame. I'm still getting some tobacco in the taste as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's
dark fruit as well. It's complex, and it's funny. It's complex because they're able to put all these tastes together and they don't fight each other. They're all on their own plane, some more in the background than others, but bourbon is the lead taste, and those other, barrel and oak are very strong as well. I haven't found a Bourbon County standard stout that I didn't like. So, I mean, it's excellent.
So 98.
98.
So honestly, I'd probably give this about a 95.
Okay.
It's because it's like I said, it does lack in the bourbon. I mean, I'm not tasting really much of hardly any bourbon at all.
Yeah.
And and I've definitely had bourbon aged stouts and other beers that I've liked better than this by quite a bit. So I would say a 95 at best.
Okay. Good. That's certainly a good rating. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah. It's a solid A beer.
Good. It's a good beer. It's definitely good.
It's an A.
It's one of those, though. I mean, not to drone on, look at price point. That was a $20+ bottle. The variants cost more than the original. Let me ask you this. Would you have rather just had a standard Bourbon County Stout over the one you're drinking now? Would that have been a better experience?
Probably yes.
Okay. So maybe not worth the double price point for what you're getting. If you're a first-time Bourbon County, you're going into it, and
I would say yes. I would say I would agree definitely. If you're a first-time Bourbon County person, definitely go for one of the stouts and not one of the not stouts.
Okay, fair enough.
John, before you give your rating,
Carmela Ale.
When you had I'll pick the year. I'm pretty sure I remember 2018. You had, was it blueberry? What was the Bourbon County you had?
It was the 2017, I believe. It was, the name of it was the Northwood Stout Edition. It was a Bourbon County Stout with blueberry puree and almond extract. And
John went crazy over this one.
I gave it 100. To be fair, looking back, if I were to have that same beer today, I probably wouldn't give it 100 because that was my first Bourbon County. It was the best beer that I've ever had at the time. And I just was I was crazy for it. I thought the blueberry and the almond, I thought it with the Bourbon County, and it was 13.2, I think, because we couldn't get anything.
Well, you made it to Georgia, so it was less than 14.
Georgia.
Yeah.
So, and the regular Bourbon County at the time was 14.6, 14.7. So, yeah, I was blown away. It was my first time having Bourbon County, and I'm pretty sure I gave it 100. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Michael, because that kind of leads into today. And I want to say,
we could see another Hundy here. We don't know yet.
I want to say that this beer, getting, the $40 price point, it may not be for everybody, but if you are a beer person and you like barrel-aged stouts and you've tried all the barrel-aged stouts that we've had here, and the wheat wines, the barley wines, whatever, if you like Bourbon County, it does not get better than this. This is, well, in my experience, I haven't had the proprietors. I haven't had some of the exclusive elite Chicago-only versions, but the Reserve 30th Anniversary 2022, which has 4 of the best bourbons that I've ever, known about. I mean, we're talking Booker's, which is a $120 bottle that comes in a wooden box. You've got Knob Creek, which is outstanding. Everybody that knows bourbon knows Knob Creek. You've got Basil Hayden's, which is another one of those iconic bourbon brands. And then Baker's, which I haven't had Baker's personally, but I've heard very good things about it. So you're talking about 4 top-tier bourbons. Mm-hmm. 30th anniversary, $40 a bottle. I would not recommend this to the first-time Bourbon County Stout drinker. Just buy a regular Bourbon County. But if you're somebody like me or Michael or Ian that drinks these beers enough to really appreciate the subtle nuances and some of the extra barrel aging and stuff with really good bourbons, then I would say absolutely it's worth the price point. And Michael, you alluded to this earlier. I'm going to go ahead and confirm it now. I'd be stupid to not I would be doing a disservice to give this anything less than 100. It's
Okay.
it's a
Look,
one.
I can
It is a
understand it.
100. I mean, four of the best bourbons on the market. The quality, the intensity. Take a 2022 Bourbon County. Not so much different in the flavor profile, but intense. Everything's intensified, and leather, which I hate to talk about leather because I don't chew on leather. I don't eat leather, but I got it in the aroma, and I got that feel on the palate, and then the intensity of the dark fruit and just the vanilla and the oak and everything was elevated above what I would normally get in a Bourbon County. It's hard to justify the $40 a bottle price point, but let me just say, price point aside, looking at what we've looked at Bourbon County wise over the years through these live examinations, it doesn't get better. This is 100. This is 100.
Now,
For me.
when you compare this to the 2017 that you think you gave 100 to, is this better than that one?
This
now,
is
the
better.
only way
This
you
is
can
better.
do it is to think back 7
This
years
is
ago.
better. Yes, and I will say with confidence this is better than that. The reason I gave that 100 out of 100 back then was because that was the first Bourbon County I ever had.
Right. It just
If
hit
it
you
was
and
a-
you said, it has to get 100.
It blew me away at the time because it was the best thing that I ever had.
Okay.
Looking
that's fine.
back, that would probably still get a 97, 98, but
Okay.
it was a variant. It was a watered down version
Well,
of
it had
the
to
original.
get below the alcohol limit, or else it
I
wouldn't have gotten
couldn't
into
get
Georgia.
I couldn't get the original Bourbon County because I lived in Georgia at the time. So I got that variant, which was 13 point whatever percent.
Right.
So yes, I gave it 100 because that was the best beer that I'd ever had up until that point. And I don't like giving 100s up to this day, but I mean, if I gave anything less than 100, not only would it make me sound like a fool because I spent $40 on a bottle of Bourbon County, but it would just be untrue. And it would be like, I'm giving it a 99 because it's so great, but this is better than any other Bourbon County that I've had. And I'll say that the 2023, which we did last month, is the second bet. The 2023,
Ian,
which I
you're
believe
going to like those when you do have them, because that's
Yeah.
as good as anything going back. I think they said till 2017 was a really good year for the original stout.
So I'm going to say, we've done this time and time again. The best two Bourbon Counties I've ever had are this one, which it should be for the price point, right? Second will be the 2023 standard Bourbon County. I think it's 14.6 or 14.7. It has a lot of these same qualities. This one just has a little bit of that subtlety, those nuances that because of the extra different barrels, I guess, it just creates that experience. But anybody out there watching this that wants to get into Bourbon County, it's 2023 now. You should be able to buy a bottle of just regular 2023 Bourbon County. That is going to be the best possible experience for $12 to $15 a bottle. You can't go wrong with it. But yeah, this stuff, out of bounds, man. Basil Hayden's, Booker's, Knob Creek. Get out of here. This is unbelievable. If I gave it anything less than 100, I'd have to quit my YouTube channel because I'm a liar.
I don't want to come across like I'm some kind of purist either. If something hits me, I'll admit it.
Michael, maybe I'll buy another one of these and
John, $40 is probably too much to spend for something like that. You think about it. But look, I would appreciate something like that. But if you think about it, you can buy, of the ones that we're talking about, the carpet was 12 and a quarter for each one. So I got a little bit of a discount. I think it was 13 in Whole Foods. That means I can buy 4 2023s, not quite, 3 2023s, and then have $4 left over kind of thing. So I'm not saying it's not worth it, because I guess the intensity, you don't have to set a price. You could go for it. I just try, they get on me a little bit at these beer tastings because I belong to the food co-op. They end up marking some of the stuff to unbelievable prices. And I'm going to mention now, Have either of you had it's not Southern Tier, Flying Dog, The Fear? It's a pumpkin ale.
I've had a lot of pumpkin ales, but I haven't had
It's a pumpkin ale, but it's an imperial pumpkin ale. Anyway,
okay.
I go to the food co-op a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and they have it on their bargain table. And I love when it's at the bargain table. It means that the person doing it has to get rid of it. So what I think happened is she probably bought it from the distributor, and what the distributor said is just get rid of this. Whatever you have to sell it for, get rid of it. And they know at the co-op, if people do like pumpkin beer, they'll buy it. So it was 26 cents a bottle, 9%.
Oh,
can you imagine? So right at the spot, I bought three 6-packs, and that's it. But it's a bottle, so it's heavy. I brought it anyway, and I've since bought 2 more 6-packs. It's really good. I mean, it's they have regular stuff that's reasonably priced. I say Warlock, which is their
I know
that's a good one.
I've bought a lot of Warlock over the years.
Okay, that's 8.6%. The co-op, they sell it for $1.04, which is still a comparatively wonderful price because you normally have to pay at least $3 a piece for those. So that's
at least.
I bought some of those
I think
too.
Closer
and
to
they had there was a winter warmer from Southern Tier that they had, which was also very good. It was also $1.04. But the problem that I have is how much of it can I buy without getting my wife upset? She'll go downstairs to my beer collection that I have downstairs and say, "Look, you got the whole wall. The whole is like a what would you call it? It's like I have some in boxes that I celery." But this my regular drinking beer is off against the wall in like a cubby hole with different, shelves and stuff. And a lot of times at night, I'll have one beer, before I go to sleep kind of thing. And I like it to be something that I like, but I can't have the same beer every night. So for a while, I was having the Fears every night, and then I got tired of it. But I still have quite a few of them left that I haven't had. It came in last at the beer tasting. Just to show you the last one we did. It came in dead last. Now, again, if you look at what the other people did have and what I had, my other beers that I had, you see why. But again, a beer like that, when you're paying 26 cents, you can't expect, it to finish first. It's not gonna be that good. And some people don't like pumpkin spice. Yeah. Which I happen to.
Oh, absolutely.
I happen to like. I like pumpkin pie taste. I like cloves. I like coriander. The Fear has all that, but it's more intense because it's 9%.
Right.
Oh, there it is. I see it now.
Yeah, there's the one. Do you see the Fear? That's
the Fear. Yeah. There's two.
But if you look at that hole, and I sent you a picture, John, there was Imperial Stouts at the top again.
Yeah. And of course. Yeah.
There's
2 Bourbon counties in this one.
They dominate. And also, another thing we're not talking about is if you look at where they are in the numbers. So those Bourbon counties were all in the high 8s average. So there are people who like barrel aged, but aren't going to give them high 9s. So they might give them 9 or 8.75, whatever. They still and some of them average above 9 because Audrey gives 9.75s all the time. People don't give 10s on our rating scale, but you'll get a 9.75, a 9.5. I think I try to be more conservative and not go crazy because you figure the averages are going to all be fine. But it's like those 2 top ones, the Bourbon counties, finished like almost a whole point behind the next group that was behind them. So it was like a domination kind of thing. So let's say I actually have my book so I can actually be accurate in what I'm saying. I don't want to blow steam or whatever. All right, so here I have the actual thing. This was it. We called it I Have a Cream Ale. That was the theme. Obviously, we weren't going to be doing any cream ale.
You're giving me Mike. You're giving me flashbacks of my father drinking Genesee cream ale.
And we used to also drink, Ian, I don't know if you remember, Genesee 12 Horse, which was their other standard ale, which I used to love. And it turns out to be 5.2. I thought it was, this excessively high alcohol thing in comparison to macros. I guess it was. They were mostly 3.5.
5.2. Yeah, if you think about it, 5.2 was fairly high back then.
And that's what I remember. And you still had to buy a case at that time too. You were in Ben Salem at the time.
Yep.
How far away are you now from where you lived in Ben Salem?
About 15 minutes or so.
Okay, so that was kind of like, but that was close to the river.
Far away.
That was close to the river too.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you sorry to interrupt. We are an hour and 15 minutes into the live stream. We could wrap it up and then continue to talk.
Okay, let me make my point in case somebody's this.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Bourbon County averaged 9.5 out of 10.
I mean, that's insane. That's
second
incredible.
place was 9.37. I want to see what number
which
3.
Which by the 0 to 10 rating is a little bit harsher rating scale than the 0 to 100. I know it doesn't sound like, it may not seem like that, but the 0 to 10 is always a little bit harsher rating scale.
No, that's true. You have more flexibility in the 100 scale because what it does is it micromanages it down to really where you have to pick the quarters and the halves and the 3/4.
So what does that say? So what does that say? That they're getting 9.5s, 9.75,
and the third place was from Revolution Brewing, another barrel aged thing. It finished above 9 also. All right, so I guess the gap was after the Revolution. It wasn't after that. Let me see what finished fourth. But I find shocking that, okay, so then it goes from there to 8.66. So you had 3 beers above 9, and then it dropped like a half point lower. Have you had anything from Omnipolo? Does that company mean anything to you?
I've had Omnipolo beers back in Georgia. I've reviewed
beers. So this was Omnipolo Agamemnon, and that finished 8.66.
I've had that beer.
And then it drops into the 8s and then lower. The Fear, which was last place, which was mine. Let's see what that did, just as a curiosity.
So was the
7.45. So it shows you the range. It goes from 9, the high 9s, all the way down to like 7.5, and it's mostly in the mid 8s because the other stuff is high quality too in the middle.
That shows you a few things, but the main thing that it tells me is that you have, as a beer drinker, a real beer drinker, we're not talking Mick Ultra, Miller, Bud, Coors Light, somebody that can appreciate beer in all of its styles and all of its variations. The bourbon barrel-aged stouts are going to win out 9 times out of 10 because they have more flavor, more complexity, more process that's involved in brewing the beers. That's a very impressive. That means a lot when you lay it out there like that, especially when you have the diversity that you have on your beer tasting. I mean, maybe one time in the few years that you've been sending me these results, like maybe once a New England IPA has won, maybe once
it's really rare. And when they have, it means that there's no bourbon. That's just we didn't have any. Barrel aged in it. So I mean, an IPA has the best chance possible, New England style, if it's up against. Now it may be able to beat a straight stout. Depends on what the straight stout is.
Straight stout, absolutely. Straight stouts are a dime a dozen.
You get those, and they don't have to be intense in their flavor and whatever.
Yeah.
Well, to your point, too, we're not just talking about stouts. When I said barrel aging earlier, I meant barrel aging. Like Saisons and barrel age.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of these farmhouse stouts, these Saisons, these, like even there were a couple of times where you had a barrel aged brown ale or a
John,
barrel
can you drop the link for Josh? I think Josh wants to join us.
Yeah, well, we're gonna go out. We're finishing up.
Okay,
this.
you want to finish up first, and then you'll drop the link for him.
Yeah, because we're
Okay.
done with.
Right, we're done in terms of everything we're rating. Okay, you go off if you want.
There is an off air. I will post the link right before I go off air. I thought it's in the Beer Talk 2024 on Google Hangouts as well. If you want to click on it there. All right, so yeah, let's close this out. This is really awesome conversation though, because when it comes down to it, we're talking about beer drinking people. You know, you can drink saisons, you could drink IPAs, you could drink stouts, you can drink this, you could drink that. But I would say 9 times out of 10, people that really drink a lot of beer, regardless of whether you're rating on the style or whatever, like people that really love beer, like I think we three do. I think that the best of the best is going to be your bourbon barrel aged stouts. Maybe
No, you're definitely right, and all the stuff I've ever done proves that. If you bring one, it doesn't have to be Bourbon County, because Revolution Revolution one was great. Also, there was one that she also brought from Chicago, and I can't remember the name of it now. That does well every time she does bring it. Hubbard something it's one of these weird ones. Hubbard Street at the something, which is also from Chicago. And it's as close to Bourbon County as anything I've ever tasted. And it wins every time that there's no Bourbon Counties against it. So
the only thing that I've had so far that's beat the Bourbon County has been Harvest Students.
Yeah.
I've had a couple. I've like the Harvest Tune 21 is amazing.
Now, are the other years as good, or they're not quite as good? And
well, the problem with the Harvest Tune is that it's just because of what they don't have. I mean, it's just very, it's so odd, you know. Right now they're showing the Harvest Tune 18 is being available.
I have never had any of those. I've never tried any of those.
So, yeah,
they're hard to get. I mean, I posted it in the StreamYard chat. So if you want to take a look at it.
Oh, okay.
So, John, you want to wrap it up? You can.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I want to say thank you to Ian and Michael for joining me tonight. Had some great Bourbon County beers. Not all stouts, by the way. You have to if you're just now joining and you don't understand that reference, and you have to go back to the beginning and watch it all the way through. But thank you to Ian and Michael for joining me tonight. We had some great beers.
John, thanks for hosting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to the chat for tuning in and leaving some great comments. We wouldn't be here without you guys. We really appreciate your support. So that'll do it for this live stream Bourbon County Stout or Bourbon County examination, one for the ages. As it says in the title. So, get on that. Anyway, we'll see you right here on the next one. We're going to plan on doing another one in February sometime, whether it's a Bourbon County or another stout or whatever. I'll let you know when the time comes. But until then, cheers, everybody.
Cheers,
Thanks
everybody.
for joining. And we'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.